So how to use the essence of frequency journaling to try to equal more money in the short and the long term. Stay to the end to find out. Welcome to the news. Yeah. So today we're trying to get to something a little bit unique, which is just trying to keep track of a little bit of information, a little bit of data by doing a little bit of journaling regarding frequency. And the essence of frequency sort of revolves around value. Value corresponds to differing items which you're able to put focus on in the short long term as you try to conceptualize different elements that you put your focus on in the realm where you focus your attention. And at different times in the day, you're able to put yourself in different positions, which enables you to be able to try to vibe alongside different encounters, which you're able to find a fundamental energy shift, which conditions your energy to be able to try to present the best value to yourself into the things that you put in front of your face, so that in essence you have the ability to fundamentally connect with the essence of higher value. Higher value corresponds to higher frequency. Higher frequency corresponds to greater value in the world and in the eyes of the world and eyes of conceptual items which equal greater monetary value. And also money, that also means money. It equals more money. So in essence, if you're able to just start to recognize, you start to put on a mask, you start to put on a filter, like in essence, something that shows you value at all given times, so that you have the ability to be able to try to find things that are valuable, and then you document them. You document them on a day-to-day basis. And you have these frequency journals. The essence of frequency journals gives you the ability to fundamentally focus on higher elements of relevance in terms of bringing yourself to a corresponding synapses connection with what you find in terms of things that will bring you more money. In essence, focusing on journaling frequencies, in essence, brings you the essence of understanding the ability to want to change. It presents the ability to find pathways to develop change. It finds the ability to develop justification for developing value, which in essence is the system to developing more of a pathway to developing a pathway to more money. It causes a research focus for developing research on a day-to-day basis, so that you have research in front of you on a corresponding all-the-time basis, so that research becomes your new foundation and your focal ability to be able to shift the dynamics, so that you have the fundamental function of researching and compiling frequency based on research. You're focusing on frequency based on your research. You're focusing on frequency, which has the highest market value. So in essence, you're also developing compounding equations from different research and different frequencies, just like this podcast. Is trying to compile value on a day-to-day basis. It's frequency aggregation in the short and the long-term sense. With this aggregation that we're trying to do, in essence, we're trying to compile frequency. This is frequency journaling. What we're doing with this podcast is frequency journaling in essence. And we're also speaking about money and compiling and compounding different elements that ultimately are able to cross-weave with each other to bring more money on into the table in essence by journaling. And then that journaling it completes a greater different picture that is a different portfolio every day of assets and asset mindsets, so that in essence that journaling becomes in essence like its own portfolio. That journaling becomes a portfolio, and in essence it continues to stack. And once that continues to stack, then you have the ability to take steps with it stacking as it steps, and you kind of go with that energy and that frequency, and you start to also follow the frequency by following the data and tracking the data on the day-to-day basis from the different frequency that's emanating from the data that's being shown on a day-to-day basis to yourself, because you're journaling it. But every single day that it stacks, it's stacking, so it's also compounding from the day before, just like a portfolio in this market where there's consistent growth happening, because it's a well put together portfolio, and in essence it's consistent assets, and that asset energy is in essence stacking. So ultimately you're reaping the rewards, but at the same time with this frequency journaling exercise, you're stacking asset energy, and it's ultimately not going anywhere. So for the ones from the day before, and ultimately they're just stacking, so you're standing up on the different steps that are being stacked on a day-to-day basis of this frequency stacking just by frequency journaling. And then therefore you have the ability to continue to stack, and as you continue to walk up to different places and different spaces with this stacking, to be able to walk up, take steps up on, that you also have the ability to make more options and develop changes in yourself, because you are changing, because in essence you're traveling through this journey with these assets, and these assets are teaching you to be able to change at the same time as you are changing, to be able to also justify changes that you're able to make in your own life, to be able to try to align with the elements that you're bringing forward in the research that correspond to different values of different monetary energy, meaning different money, meaning more money. In the research that you're uncovering, it develops a story, it develops pipelines for different avenues of developing packages for different asset frequency aggregation that you're able to put together in a short and long-term sense, in a journaling sense. As you journal them, those develop their own energy in of themselves. They tell their own story. They develop their own process for you to package into your own brain, and they correspond to your own brain as you do this research, so that you've got that connection to this research fundamentally, and you're able to find a way to be able to stack and rise up and take steps up as you stack up this aggregation in this journaling frequency, and this frequency steps up and the quality of it steps up because you're practicing on a day-to-day basis. You're not just keeping track, but you're also practicing fundamentally the frequency focus, in essence, on a day-to-day basis because of the day-to-day repetition and practice. And as a result, it stacks on top of each other, and as a result, it compounds on top of each other. And so as a result, it develops the ability to justify making changes to align with those ultimately packages of frequencies that correspond to different money and higher volumes of different money, to be able to relate it to the personal choices which you're able to make, to fundamentally be able to align with those personal choices, to be able to cause those choices and those effects, and cause and affect those effects, to where fundamentally, after you start to be able to eventually make enough frequency documentation eventually, that you're able to see patterns in the way that the frequency moves and the motion of the frequency, to be able to develop your own pattern recognition and your own process for understanding how the patterns might move necessarily one day or another. And then eventually you just can ultimately maybe try to manipulate some of the frequencies that are around you to try to align yourself, to be able to focus on aligning within the linear fashion of being able to connect with that conceptual linearity, so that ultimately you're able to align and fundamentally be able to flow alongside of the necessity to be able to get to and reach the fundamental place where those frequencies live and are aligned at, so that ultimately you're able to achieve and attain some of those frequencies which you have researched, which are emanating frequencies, and be able to align with those frequencies to be able to achieve more of that monetary energy, and therefore more of that money, and therefore more of the element which connects money to the spirit and the soul and the human, and the ability to connect that with frequencies more or less. So that's how you're able to connect it with more money and getting more money. Yeah. And just as a side note, just to end this with a side note, just to end this with a finishing touch, with a note of how we will also want to start to change the animal industry, start to change fundamentally the animal shelter industry, basically by being able to start to hire different animals as healers, So ultimately we're able to hire animals from the animal shelters and put them to work as healers, and go into different organizations and different businesses, and ultimately different businesses are able to film their own company and their own progress, so that in essence they're able to grow their business. And fundamentally, if more animals show up and more more content that corresponds to businesses, they will grow their business, because the animal energy is a better energy, it's a better vibration than usual, because it's healing energy that they want to emanate. And ultimately, if that healing energy can be hired into businesses and into volunteering, different dogs doing voluntourism, different cats and dogs doing voluntourism all around the world, and we can clear the shelters, we can clear the animal shelters by starting to hire animals and be able to fundamentally get them into companies where it's in essence part of their marketing content, to where it's fundamentally helping their story be told, because their energy and their vibrations and their frequencies increase by bringing animals into the equation for some of their marketing content, so that in essence it's able to resonate to their audience that they're fundamentally in support of this higher vibration and this higher frequency, and that therefore will help to correspond to a greater valuation for their businesses, and or any organization or individual for that matter can document it and document the process and document the healing process, and then therefore help to clear the shelters, clear the animal 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 shelters, yeah. That's all for now. Thanks again. Bye, Ting Tech. Bye, peace. Bye, Ting Tech Change for Game Studios. Bye, peace. Bye, thanks, peace. Bye.